Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Schmoedown Rundown. Introducing first, Frankie Stats Janisch. And their co-host, the man of controversy, Mr. Brian the Duke David. And finally, your host, Aaron Turner. Let's get ready to Schmoedown.
What's going on, Movie Trivia Schmoedown fans? It is episode number 30, of the Schmoedown Rundown, the official after show for the Movie Trivia Schmoedown. My name is Aaron. I am your host. As always, I am back. Thank you to Brianne Chandler for filling in last week for me. Really appreciate it. She did a great job. Can't wait to have her back. Also here, the stat man, Frank Janisch. What's up, dude?
Hey, great to be back again. Thanks for coming back, Aaron. We thought we lost you for good.
The people on Twitter were saying they didn't really want me back. But anyway, all right. Also here is Brian Davids. What's going on, dude?
Not much. It's been a difficult week, and I think Frank forgot that we talked on Tuesday in that Beast interview.
Yeah,
Frank.
Dude, I'm just so out of sorts. My weeks have been crazy.
Not to pull back the curtain, but Frank does work for an airline that has been quite publicized lately, so draw your own conclusions there. So he must be tired from dragging people off planes. But anyway, I digress. Let's move on into...
Writing checks.
Exactly. This is something that we don't normally do. This is not something in our wheelhouse. A couple weeks ago, I played a clip before our theme music that was of the late Jonathan Demme. And I did that because at the end of the day, all of us here on the Schmoedown Rundown are movie fans. That's why part of the reason why we enjoy the Schmoedown. We're movie fans. And Jonathan Demme, of course, was a big part of my life and a big part of a lot of people's lives with Silence of the Lambs and Phil. So I wanted to shout him out. But we lost 3 people this week, 3 big influences in the movie industry. And I wanted to take a minute to talk about them, because I think all 3 of them are important in their own way. Of those 3 people, Powers Booth, Michael Parks, and Chris Cornell. So I wanted to take just a few minutes and talk about maybe our life experiences and just things they did for the movies to entertain us. So I wanted to start off the top with Powers Booth. Now, like it's been said many times, Powers Booth is not a name that comes directly to mind, but once you see him on screen, you know exactly who he is. And from Sudden Death to Tombstone to Frailty to Sin City, Powers Booth always commanded the screen, and I will always remember him for that. And funny thing, a couple weeks ago when we made a bet that I would have to watch Tombstone because I lost on our predictions, I'd never seen it before. And Powers Booth has a big, big part in Tombstone. And he popped up on the screen, and I remember texting Brian and Frank and saying, like, holy shit, Powers Booth is in this. So I'm already in because I'm such a big fan of his. So that's what I'll remember about Powers Booth, just his screen presence, his deep voice, and his always taking the scene away. So, Brian, do you have any thoughts on Powers Booth?
As I said on Twitter, I hope Bill Paxton and Powers Booth are drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon in heaven right now and reminiscing about their times filming Tombstone and Frailty, as well as growing up in Texas. And Curly Bill from Tombstone, my favorite movie. It's amazing what he was able to do in that movie, even though he wasn't the only villain in that movie. You know you're a standout performer when you're able to make the most of your scenes, when you're kind of the co-villain of the piece. So, God, he's a big presence on shows like 24 as well as Deadwood. There was talk of a Deadwood movie coming soon. So he's going to be missed. He's just a massive character actor. And I don't know what it is, but the last few years, we are losing the best character actors we have, and they're so valuable to films and TV shows. And yet there's a laundry list of names we've lost in the last 5 to 10 years. Frank?
Yeah, Powers Booth isn't someone that, whose name comes to my mind automatically a lot. or rarely, if ever, to be honest. I mean, I've seen him obviously in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and 24, a couple of the shows that I followed a lot, and so that's where I mostly know him from, and then Tombstone as well. But so I don't quite have the affinity towards him as Brian and you, Aaron. So, but when I did see him in the shows that I watched, he was always great and he always played these I guess intriguing characters, and he always played them very, very well.
Such a great character actor, like you said, Brian. And also, I mean, I want to take a minute to talk about Michael Parks. Now, most recently, you probably know Michael Parks from Tusk and from Red State, if you're a Kevin Smith fan. I mean, he's been in TV, he's been in Tarantino films. Michael Parks has made a big impression on two great filmmakers. So, Brian, give me your thoughts on Michael Parks.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that you recognize him when you see him, when you hear his voice. You may not know his name, but like I said, he's a character actor that improves any piece he's in. He played Texas Ranger Earl McGraw in Kill Bill 1 and 2. He originated the character in From Dusk Till Dawn. He showed up as the same character in Death Proof and Planet Terror. So obviously Tarantino and Rodriguez thought rather highly of him. And like you said, Aaron, one of his best roles, most underrated perhaps, Red State.
Yeah, another guy, that I didn't really know a whole lot about until I see his face. And then I see him in, like Kill Bill and Dusk Till Dawn. So it wasn't until I went back and looked him up and I go, oh man, I've seen this guy in a lot of things. I just didn't know his name. And it's a shame when a character actor like that passes away.
If you get a chance, you should definitely check out the latest episode of Hollywood Babylon with Kevin Smith when he talks about a time that he and Quentin Tarantino and Michael Parks all watched a cut of Red State together. It's pretty entertaining. Should definitely check that out. Also, of course, last but of course certainly not least is Chris Cornell, lead singer of Soundgarden and Audio Slave. Lost his life this week due to some strange circumstances, which that's not why we're here to cover that. That's not part of it. But once you were listening, once you heard his voice, it was something different. And he's a great performer, a great songwriter, a great composer.
Chris Cornell was the Robert Plant of my generation. He's been part of my personal Mount Rushmore of musicians for a long time. So this hit me as hard as any celebrity death since 1994. And we're covering a movie trivia related show. So it's worth pointing out that Chris was heavily involved in film soundtracks. So I'm sure he'll show up in many of the category's future questions, as he famously wrote Casino Royale's stellar Bond theme, You Know My Name. Soundgarden's Live to Rise was featured in the Avengers end credits. The song Seasons was originally written for Cameron Crowe's film Singles, but was later used in Man of Steel when Clark stole some clothes. He just wrote a song for Christian Bale's The Promise, which might have Oscar chances. And I can't forget about one of my favorite songs of Chris's, Sun Shower from Great Expectations. Cornell taught me how to play guitar growing up, as I learned at least 2 Soundgarden records from front to back. Eventually, when I had a short career in music, Soundgarden was a band that my band would often reference, not just for their songwriting, but for just their approach to being a band. So not only did the music world lose one of its greatest voices of all time, a divine and otherworldly voice, the film community also lost one of its best songwriters, given Chris's cinematic sensibilities. Sadly, the world is a lesser place without Chris Cornell. Rest in peace.
I'm not a very big music type person. I like music, but I'm not one of these people that learns everyone's name in the band or knows every name of the song off an album. But I did know who Chris Cornell was, Soundgarden and Audioslave, mostly from Soundgarden, and probably one of the most famous songs, Black Hole Sun, was a song that I really loved. And I had actually, I think it was 2006 or 7, maybe 2005. He was on tour with Linkin Park, and I went to this concert, and he was there, and he opened up for them. And I'll never remember him playing Black Hole Sun, and he came on stage and played with Linkin Park for a couple songs. I mean, to see him live was pretty extraordinary. I mean, he just gave full effort and energy, and you could see it. I mean, he's hopping around that stage having fun, and it was really cool to see him perform. And I'm glad to say that I actually saw Chris Cornell in concert, and I'll never forget when he played Black Hole Sun. Everyone was just engrossed in that environment when he was singing that song, and all these years later, I still remember that, and that was the first thing I remembered when I heard about his passing. So that's one thing that'll stick with me about Chris Cornell.
Yeah, that's one thing a lot of people I've seen this week, like, even if they don't know Soundgarden or Audioslave or anything, like Black Hole Sun, they're like, oh yeah, of course I know Black Hole Sun. So to leave a lasting impression like that on people to where they know your songs by name is pretty incredible. So big losses this week in the community. So we had to talk about it. I felt like it was the right thing to do to talk about these people, because like I said, at the end of the day, we're movie fans first. And that's three people that are very important to the film industry. So if we could, I want to take just a moment of silence for the memory of Chris Cornell, Powers Booth, and Michael Parks. All right, so let's get into some news this week. We had the commissioner drop a big updated schedule for us. Some matches added, some taken off. Frank, you see all these matches. What sticks out to you now?
Well, the one that stuck out immediately to me was the stipulations placed upon the 6 Degrees Tough Beats match.
Yeah.
Loser breaks up. That was quite surprising to see, to say the least. I kind of get it. So, that's one that stood out to me. And then still the Makuga and TBD. So I don't know who his partner's going to be. I don't know what kind of reveal that's going to be, who it could be. And then I didn't quite get who is on DC Movie News team. I don't know if you guys know who that is. I didn't quite look at that.
Well, I believe that Roxy Stryer will be coming into the fold. I don't know if she will be teaming up with Mike Kalinowski or not. I don't know if that was decided, but that could be a team. I don't know.
Johnny LaQuasto?
Oh, Jay Quasto.
No, and that was pretty much the one. Oh, also McQueenie and Makuga. Really? Yeah. That was an interesting one. I was like, well, McQueenie has had his struggles. So Makuga could certainly pull another Faco or whatever we were calling him. I forget when he faced up against Andreyko as Finstock or
Finn Draco.
So, Finn Draco, there you go. Can't cut out Makuga on that one, given McQueenie's struggles. So, yeah, those are the few that really caught my eye.
Yeah, McQueenie Makuga is one that I am anticipating greatly. Drew has got to get back on track, but Makuga is no pushover. He just suffered a tough loss as well to Sneider. So this is going to be two hungry players that have to win. So all I know is we're going to get a great match. And yeah, like you guys, I was surprised by the Tough Beat 6 Degrees loser breaks up stipulation. I get it for Tough Beats, but 6 Degrees have proven to be such a great asset to this league, given their entrances, given how fun they are as a group, and Stacy and Brienne are having singles success. Brienne most recently, Stacy, as I will predict later in the show, I think will have singles success against a member of Tough Beat. So very surprising to see that, but some great stuff to look forward to either way.
Yeah, the one that oddly enough sticks out to me the most is Matt Nose versus Tom Dagnino. Number one, we get to see Tom Dagnino back in action, so I think that's pretty awesome. And I am actually interested in the back and forth between Nost and Tom.
And their stables.
Exactly. I feel like Matt Nost is a guy that would be an absolute sniper on the mic. I feel like he could be a guy that could be really good and could challenge Tom a little bit with his comedic background, and he just seems like he has a sharp tongue. So I'd kind of want to see those two go back and forth. That one's really interesting to me. DC Movie News and whatever incarnation they have, I want to see them. And that's really about it that sticks out to me. Tough Beats versus 6 Degrees, a breakup match. Always sorry to hear that, and Burnett versus Tim Franco was scheduled, so that's officially on the slate. So that's kind of cool to see. The first fan versus, I guess it's like pros versus Joes kind of deal, but something like that, if you will. But yeah, that's kind of what stuck out to me.
Also, this special match that's supposed to be happening on June 30th, I have no idea what that could be. It's a week before the Patriots top 10 match. I have really no idea what that could be, unless that's just an open slot and they're saying it's a special match. Maybe it's a Star Wars match. I don't know.
Well, it's obviously, I'll just go ahead and break the news here. It's a triple threat between me, you, and Brian. It's obvious. So,
oh, boy.
Yeah. So prepare for certain doom.
Do we have to be blindfolded when we face Brian?
Everybody in masks.
Anyway. All right. And that's all of the news for this week. No, actually, wait a second. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh, that's right. That's right. Actually, John Roca, the Outlaw, got to speak to a certain, I don't know, greatest person on planet Earth this week, and he was holding the biggest prize in the Movie Trivia Schmoedown game. That is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, that was holding the Movie Trivia Schmoedown Championship, retweeted by John Campia that said, "Movie Trivia Schmoedown, something's cooking." So, Brian, what could possibly be cooking between the Movie Trivia Schmoedown and The Rock?
Well, I think mostly it was that The Rock cut a promo with John Roca for the Schmoedown. I wouldn't get ahead of ourselves and think, oh, well, a match is coming. Roca even said on his podcast that The Rock joked, how much are you going to pay me? So for now, I think a promo is fair to expect. But now I'm glad that Roca was able to achieve a big dream of his as well.
Frank, we going to hit rock bottom here, or is something cooking with the great one? What do you think?
You know, you never know. I think, obviously, we will see something going forward for Collision. Hey, look, if we're trying to get a match with The Rock and Kevin Hart, I think this is certainly a good step in that direction. Doesn't hurt. And I'll just say, when I saw The Rock having that belt slung over his shoulder, I don't know, man. That was just the coolest thing I've seen regarding the Schmoedown.
It looked good on him.
It looked good. I mean, it looked right. Didn't it? It just looked right. And I was like, God, this has to happen eventually. And I really think, I don't know if it'll be this year or the year after or whenever. I just think eventually everything's going to line up and it will happen. I just have to have that belief. It was just really cool to see that happen in the way, and the little snippet that I saw of Roca talking to The Rock and everything. That was really cool. So, I mean, yeah, The Rock is just like the greatest person ever. So, to get him somehow involved in the Schmoedown in any capacity is a definite win.
For the record, I'm trying not to get my hopes up, so I'm just trying to keep a level head, because sometimes when things are announced too soon, it leads to disappointment. So I'm hoping for the absolute best. I'm just trying, personally, not to get my hopes up. That's all.
There's already a brewing storyline that just needs to be put together, and that's with The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, and Booker T. They're former rivals. The Rock at one time took the WCW championship from Booker T. That's a fact. You can look that up. Why not renew the rivalry on the Movie Trivia Schmoedown? I think that would be a lot of fun. Once again, I'm like you, Brian. I don't want to get everybody's hopes up, but it's just pretty awesome seeing The Rock get into the space. He knows what it is now. He knows there's a championship belt. He's the people's champion. So what if he has a feeling like the Outlaw where he wants all the belts? Just saying, it's pretty exciting. It's pretty electrifying that The Rock is even remotely involved with the Schmoedown. That's pretty sweet. I enjoy that very thoroughly.
If nothing else, this photo is amazing. I'll settle for that. It's just an amazing thing. So,
all right, with that out of the way, all the news, let's jump into the team recap this week. It was a debuting double Toasted versus a fan favorite of mine anyway, the Real Rejects. Came down to the last question with Double Toasted winning in their debut 24-23 over Greg and John. Another tough loss for the Real Rejects. Frank, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, tough loss for Real Rejects. Came down to that final question. Once again, they had a shot to win it, and it just didn't happen for them. I could not believe it. It came down to the last question again for them, and they couldn't do it. I think they've only answered that final question once right in all their matches. Solid first round by both teams. I really enjoyed Corey and Martin. Not been familiar with any of their work before. They were very, very entertaining in their pre-match interviews, and just throughout the entire match, very entertaining. Second round, pretty competitive as well. And then, yeah, that third round, I mean, look, if that car's radiator springs from, I think it was Martin who answered it. Hey, great pull, and it got them to win.
Save the game for him, really.
Yeah.
And shout out to Martin for looking exactly like former SmackDown general manager Teddy Long, holla holla player. Brian, what did you think of this match overall?
I thought he was that guy. When I saw that photo in the Facebook group, I thought it was him until I read the actual print.
It's his twin brother. It's got to be.
Well, first off, if you haven't seen The Prestige, I'm sorry. That's a tough way to learn about The Prestige's ending. We finally got evidence that the Young Bucks are still a thing. So I was glad that we got that confirmation. And tip to Schmoedown competitors, watch Tommy Boy. Skaliski is pulling from it a lot lately, it seems. I've been referencing it for many months now. So it's now popping up on the show, but there are certain movies that Skaliski likes to rely on, and I've got another one that I'll mention later in the show, or just he gets in a little groove with certain movies. And of course, we mentioned it at some point already, but the Nolan category made its debut in this match, and I was so thrilled to see that. It's about damn time. And of course, Real Rejects had a great time with that Nolan category. Entertaining, fun, hilarious match. Double Toasted was introduced, including Corey. Corey's unbelievable. I enjoy this duo together, but I think I would love to see Corey in singles play. And given that they're located in Texas, I believe, that might be easier said than done. But what an entertaining match. Real Rejects lost another match down to the wire, so same old story for them, but still, you can't go wrong with a match like this, regardless of who wins or loses.
Frank, do you have a stat line on this?
Yeah, here's a couple of stats. Real Rejects outscored Double Toasted in round 1 9-8. In round 2, outscored him again 9-8. And then in round 3, they lost 8-5 in that round. They also, Real Rejects, they outperformed. Don't get that confused with outscored. They outperformed Double Toasted. Real Rejects answered 16 out of 26. Double Toasted answered 15 out of 26. Wow. So there you go.
By the way, when the Josh McCougar rule was first announced, I expressed a concern that someone like JTE, when he knew he was going to lose, or when he knew he was set to lose, he would use the Josh McCougar rule just to annoy everyone and stall for time, even though he didn't have an answer. So in this match, Real Rejects used, I believe, 2 or 3 Josh McCougar rules for their final question, and it was actually quite hilarious. It did not annoy anyone, which was a fear that I had when it was first announced. So the Josh McCougar rule, even when used and overused in the same question, can be funny.
Are you sure it's not the JTE rule?
It's the Josh McCougar rule named after JTE.
Okay, I'm just trying to save you comments later. That's all I'm trying to do. All right, yeah. I mean, it was cool to see a new team. I think they were a lot of fun. They had a lot of personality. From what I've heard, they are definitely willing to come back. So that's great. Sounds like a lot of fun. Can't wait to see them back. Should be cool. Tough sledding for the Real Rejects. They just can't seem to get a good foot in teams. And as we'll talk about in a later match, it's not looking really good for team continuity right now. But
so I love that toast bit. I love when Cobster and RB3 pulled the toast bit. We don't talk about entrances too much, but that is worthy of a high five, I guess. Certain people can say F you and make it sound hilarious, and Corey is one of those people, as he ran right up to Real Rejects after the match, yelled F you in their faces, and yet it was hilarious. I wish I could do that.
A high five or a toast?
A double toast to Cobster and RB3.
You know what? Exactly. Also, regarding that entrance, I think that was the first time we ever had competitor-on-competitor violence on the entrance.
Yeah, they had to step away. They had to do the please stand by. I thought that was pretty funny.
I loved it.
And they added sound effects too. And that's Aaron, that's something I brought up a few weeks ago. I said, do you think they'll ever do stunts in these matches?
There you go.
So this wasn't a major stunt, but it was something.
I know they definitely will never do skits, as Ken Knapsack would correct me to say. Let's talk about Double Toasted here again for a second. Who do you want to see Double Toasted go up against next, Frank?
I think I'd actually like to see them up against Team Action. I think that would be quite interesting.
I think it's a good call. I would actually like to see that a lot, too. I think that'd be some good, fun banter. What about you, Brian?
Just, out of the blue, obviously this is not a realistic match, but I think the Patriots would be a fun match with Double Toasted, just given the personalities involved.
I like it. That's not bad at all.
I'm sorry. I thought Double Toasted got some pretty tough questions right, and look, it's a long way to see a Patriot Double Toasted match, but I'm with you, Brian. I would actually really like to see that.
Corey is the better player between the two, but Martin came up big when it mattered, as you mentioned, with that Radiator Springs question.
Well, let's flip the script here and let's talk about the Real Rejects. What's next for them?
They're 1-3 right now, correct?
Yes.
It's hard to say. They have a record that might warrant a breakup match, a retirement match, but at the same time, they're fan favorites. They're entertaining. They're funny. So it's hard to say what their future is. All I know is I want them in the league still.
Yeah, I want them in the league too. But you're starting to set this precedent almost when you have these breakup matches like we're going to get with Tough Beats and 6 Degrees. We had it with Wangers and Wangers played Real Rejects, right?
Yeah, they did.
So, they've skated along that territory before. The record does warrant another breakup match, but I don't know what team put them against. I would have said Tough Beats, but I might still be able to in a few weeks. I don't know what you do with Real Rejects, to tell you the truth. I really don't know.
Put them Ricky. Just Ricky. Just both of them against Ricky, and whoever loses cannot be a team anymore. So there you go. There's your solution.
Stipulation matches. So far, we've only had dramatic stipulation matches, retirement matches, loser gets banned matches, loser splits up matches, whatever it is, you know what I'm saying. Can we have some fun stipulations such as the loser has to shave their head, the loser has to dress like Josh McCouga, the loser has to wear a dress in their next match? Let's get some fun stipulations so that they're not all just breakups and retirements and band matches. Let's get some fun stuff in there, just to mix things up a bit and have fun.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah, I would love to see some of the heads get shaved.
Something. I'm just thinking. I'm thinking off the top of my head.
Like a urinal, maybe.
Oh,
that's
no.
a good callback.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a career ruiner. But Jeremy Johns and Robert Meyer Burnett kind of set the precedent on that with their Hot Toys side bet. So that was kind of fun. But
that's an unofficial stipulation, though. I'm talking
unofficial. Yes, of course.
The Predator costume. That Predator costume is still hanging in Kristian Harloff's double closet somewhere. So that could be worn by someone else.
Oh my God! I hope it's in like a vacuum sealed bag that nobody can smell. For God's sake, it looks like the smelliest costume. But anyway, we got off track. So Double Toasted,
relevant.
But anyway, Double Toasted, they are 1-0, looking to get at Team Patriots at some point, and we'll see what happens with the Real Rejects real soon. As we're going to talk about one of them right now, as it was John Humphrey, double dose of him this week, taking on Marc the Android Andreyko. And, of course, this is a battle of free-for-all MVPs, if you will. In the pre-match, it was interesting to note that Grace, the Lioness Hancock, was back with the Lion's Den. She said, bottom line, you're a loser. She did a lot of nodding, so that was cool to see. In round one, it was a barn-burning 2-1 lead for Marc Andreyko, as he kept making the joke that everybody can wake up now. It's almost over. I enjoyed that a lot.
Is this officially the worst round one we've ever had?
Collectively speaking, I think this ties the Tiffany Smith Finstock match. I have to double check that, but I'm pretty. If not, it's like they're. I got shit. I was getting flashbacks to that match, and I was like, "Oh my God!"
It's an exercise in futility.
Horrible, and it's coming from two people I didn't expect to have this kind of round one. So it was comical in that sense, and not as painful to watch.
Well, thankfully for us, it picked up in round two. As at the end, Marc Andreyko led 11-6 after going 4 for 4, getting all of his questions right, and luckily it came back together in round two as Andreyko took 90s and went 4 for 4, and then took the lead at the end of the second round, 11-6 over John Humphrey, which he could only manage to get one question in round three, the 2-pointer, and it was Marc Andreyko TKOing John Humphrey 11-8. Brian, what did you think of this match?
Well, we talked about last weekend before about how you should spin the wheel. Humphrey spun fantasy sci-fi, and then he spun it again because he started on the same category. As I've been saying, if you move the ticker to another category, you're less likely to land on the same category again. Miss Movies even stole this approach from me if you listened to last week's show. My thoughts on the match, though. During our preview earlier this week, I said that I didn't put too much stock in anyone's free-for-all performance because free-for-all success wasn't a matter of answering the most questions. It was just a matter of answering enough questions. And that's not a knock against the free-for-all. However, I was kind of proven right because expecting free-for-all success to carry over to singles or team play when they're entirely different formats just never made sense to me. And while it wasn't pretty, Android got the win. He moved up in the rankings as expected. So, a win is a win. He didn't get much points. It's probably not going to jump him too far in the rankings, but it went as expected as far as who won. So, like I said, though, we just can't inflate free-for-all performance when it's such a different beast altogether.
What about you, Frank? What did you think of this?
Yeah, so I want to go back real quick to that pre-match interview when Grace was in there. I saw her arms. I mean, she had some guns on her. She looked like she could seriously beat my ass. I was hugely impressed. But anyways, that's beside the point.
It looks like she's been with them for years. This is only her second appearance side by side, her first official appearance, you could say. But it looks like she's been a part of this group for 10 years. She just looks right. She looks natural in this group.
Yeah, she looked very comfortable up there, just nodding and whatnot, and just displaying her Michelle Obama arms. I was just like, wow, that was impressive. But getting back to the match,
she works out, Frank. We get it.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, getting back to the match, it went as I expected, but not quite to the low level that I wasn't expecting this low level of a match. Andreyko, I have said it. I don't know what version of Andreyko we're gonna get, and we kind of got every kind of Andreyko in this match. A really suspect Andreyko in that first round, and then we got exactly how he performed against Jay Washington. And then in the second round, we got that Bibbiani match Andreyko, where he just ran through the second round, including getting that steal. He didn't have to answer anything in the third round, so it remains to be seen what he would have done there. He got the win, and after this match, I still don't know what to think of Andreyko. And again, I'm not huge on what people did in the free-for-all. It's not really indicative of how they are as a whole. It's just a weird system or not weird, but it's just a different system than what we have in normal matches. Well, we got a Humphrey. That's kind of what I expected, not quite to the low level. He answered 5 out of 15 questions. That's not great. Andreyko was 7 of 13 with 1 for 1 being on steals. So, you're going to not all these matches are not going to be barn burners, but it was still entertaining in its own way, and I still had fun with it.
I just want to point something out. The 5-pointer for Humphrey, that was a quote from Nacho Libre. The commish made a harmless mistake by saying that it was from This Is Spinal Tap. Either way, Humphrey missed the question. So the outcome is the same. I just want to make sure that people don't go after Kristian. It was a harmless mistake. The answer was Nacho Libre. But yeah, he accidentally said, This Is Spinal Tap. Nothing to see here.
It's interesting to note, at least it was to me, that John Humphrey entered with some oddly masked, I'm assuming that was Cobster and RB3, though I couldn't tell because their identities were obscured. But holy cow, was that weird. And Humphrey came out with the Nerf DL44, which I appreciated as a Star Wars fan. Frank, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And interesting of note, I have to hear his line in round 2 talking about Tom Cruise when he said Tom Cruise probably wanted to be top, which got a great laugh out of me. And I hope you guys got a good laugh out of that too, because that is outstandingly hilarious.
And you say this is a family show.
Exactly. And if Kristian and his daughter are listening, I apologize profusely. But also, it's interesting to note that Andreyko in round 2, when he spun Crime, he made the comment that he didn't want to take it because it was too broad. Then he spins 90s, which of course you can't change on that, but it's even more broad. And he seemed to be a lot more comfortable with that. So I thought that was interesting to note. of course, John, it all kind of came apart in round 3. The skinny Marinky Dinky Dink did not do it at the end. It just was not his day, unfortunately. And that kind of leads into the post-match interview where Cobster, the leader of the Young Bucks, the advocate, if you will, was upset because John had lost this match. The Real Rejects had lost their previous match. RB3 had lost his match. The only one that's winning is the champion, which is Hector Navarro, and we haven't seen him compete in a while. So the Young Bucks are down, and Cobster has had enough, and he quit. Cobster quit on his team, and RB3 took over as the de facto leader, where he had some choice words for one, Josh Tapia, a.k.a. JTE. Frank, what did you think of that?
Oh, I loved it, dude. I was laughing my ass off when I heard RB3 just unleash on JTE. I loved it. I loved what I saw out of RB3, and I liked the direction that I think I don't know if they're still be called the Young Bucks. I thought I heard them say a couple different names, but I like the direction I think they're going to go, and they're going to get a little more gritty. And I think RB3 is, he's got an opportunity here to really do something special and make a big name for himself in the league. So I can't wait to see an RB3 JTE match. That's going to be great. I mean, an intern against a former intern. I don't know, is RB3 still technically an intern?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, it was a battle of Schmo interns, if you will. So that'll be pretty cool.
Student versus teacher. I kind of like the idea. Brian, what did you think of this departure of one Kristian Harloff, a.k.a. Cobster?
Well, I just said in regards to Tuesday's match that we just got evidence that the Young Bucks are still a thing, and now they're already a new thing because Cobster quit, and now RB3 is the de facto leader. And I think someone saw RB3's recent rant. I can't remember who it was against. Maybe it was on Schmoes Know, or the Schmoes Know show. But he's just a natural when it comes to going off on people on the mic. He's just more suited for this role, and that's no disrespect to Cobster, but I cannot wait to see RB3 unleash on some fools. So great decision either way.
I got to be honest with you. I'm kind of actually sad that Cobster left the group. I'd always envisioned that stable and Cobster as the figurehead to be more of like an old timey lawyer would have like the big cell phone and would always be like, oh, I'm on the phone with a client or something like that. Like I figured Cobster would be that guy walk around with a cell phone all the time talking to people, but it just never worked out that way. And I'm sorry that Cobster felt the need to quit on his team. That happens though. But RB3 is the new leader. I'm down with it.
Think about managers, though. Think about Finstock. Think about Ricky. Think about RB3. That is real interesting when you consider the mic abilities of all three. I might be leaving out another manager, but all three are very skilled in their own right. Ken as well. All four are very skilled in their own right when it comes to working the mic. So I just think it's a decision that revolved around who brings the most personality on the mic when it comes to managing.
And who knows, maybe Ricky Hayberg could be the new manager of the Young Bucks or a new mouthpiece. I think that would fit quite well. Interesting.
We got to get Ricky versus Finstock somehow, some way.
Yeah. Stranger things would have happened, and I'm not interested in that match, but I digress. Anything else we want to talk about during this match, or do we want to?
I'm not talking about a match. I'm just talking about a manager off. Manager versus
a manager off. Okay, well that's different. Okay, that's fine.
We did have a quick thing where Finstock wants to play Miss Movies. Finstock thinks that Miss Movies' heel turn is bogus, that it's fake. So he wants a piece of her, assuming that she beats Killer Kalinowski. So Finstock creating another new enemy by the day.
And as we all know, Finstock brings the real news and not the fake news. Frank, anything else you wanted to talk about this match?
It was an okay match, and that's okay. And that's that.
Okay. Well, I think where it started and where it ended up were two different things. It was actually pretty compelling towards the end. So I had a good time with it, better than I thought it would end up for sure. I thought we were heading towards a 5-4 end match, and that just would have been terrible for the league. But I'm glad it didn't end up that way, and hopefully John Humphrey doesn't get discouraged and doesn't do much more singles, because the guy is incredibly entertaining. I enjoy it. But let's jump into the main event this week. We're going to take a deep dive into this one. It was the commissioner, Kristian Harloff, the boss, if you will, versus the beast, friend of the show, Mr. William Bibbiani. Now, let's talk first about the pre-match promos.
Yeah.
Because, first of all, did you guys know that growl growl was an actual language that you could speak? Like, I am Groot, but it's growl growl. Were you guys aware of such a thing?
Oh, that was
R2D2.
It was kind of like, that like the Sim City, like the Sims like language, but it's growl. It's all growl. And I thought, because then even Kristian started speaking growlish. I don't know. So it was crazy.
It's the new tongues for the 21st century. I just want to say about the promo, though, Kristian said he's got nothing to lose, and that's the exact same point I made in our preview special. Again, it's so much easier to play when you're happy with the outcome either way. The Beast had impossible expectations placed on him as of his debut, and if you look at someone like Jeff Sneider, he's been able to move up under the radar because he didn't have the pressure of expectations due to his slow start. So the moral of the story, start off slow in the Schmoedown. That way, no one expects anything from you.
Quick shout out to Kristian for the line, "Take it to the bank, succotash." Kristian, if nothing else, is the king of putting phrases together that make absolutely no sense, but at the same time are absolutely hilarious. Case in point, of course, the infamous "shave your head and go to sleep," and the Camino rant, which I don't need to bring up here, but it's always interesting when Kristian puts these things together. I rather enjoyed that "Take to the bank, succotash" t-shirt worthy. So let's jump to this. Ken and Ellis with the call on this match. No Campy at this time, which is fine. I thought Ken and Ellis did actually a really great job. Booker T, quick shout out to him for the Harlem Heat style headgear throwback. Appreciated that, Booker T. Probably what he was not going for that, but I noticed it, so I appreciate it.
This Booker T segment was my favorite one he's ever done.
I was just going to say that.
Dude, I love this one so much.
Is it because he got into it and like he was like the dude's arms were pulsating? I thought he was going to blow a vein. I really did.
Just everything. I was loving every second of it, and it's because I think he understood and he conveyed, certainly through his words and actions, that this is a huge match. This is with the commissioner. Or as I'm now calling, commission. And this is...
Oh, wow.
Right?
Okay. All right.
So I just was absolutely floored by Booker T. And this is my favorite one.
I hope he throws one of his engineers through the radio glass window, the studio glass window at some point. Like, they got to do something crazy for like a big event like Collision or something.
Well, as the question is always asked with Booker T's theme music, I can dig that, sucka. In round one, it was Kristian going 5 of 8, and the Beast going a perfect 8 for 8, becoming the first person since it was implemented to get a bonus question asked him. He got it wrong, which is fine. But hey, the Beast is making history, so that's another record that John Roca does not have.
Unbelievable.
A quick thing I wanted to talk about between Ken and Ellis. I think this match had some of the best back and forth banter between commentators that we've ever had. I thought Ken was on point. I thought that Ellis, when he came in, he was great too. And I thought it was on fire. I don't know how you guys felt about it.
It's time to Schmoedown.
I loved Ken correcting himself. I love that a lot. That kind of made it better because it seemed like he'd screwed it up. And he said, "It's time to Schmoedown." And then people kind of looked at, you could tell people off camera were looking at Ken. And he was just kind of like, yeah, we're moving on.
It's weird. I keep noticing this trend, and I'm not saying I had anything to do with it, but I'll make references on this show or on Twitter, and they'll somehow end up on the show. Like just recently, I did a Code Red thing on Twitter. Maybe it was one of you guys. And this week we had a Code Red question. Again, it has nothing to do with me, but stuff that we're talking about in real life just somehow transitions.
You're saying it's eerie. It's eerie.
It is eerie. I made a Tommy Boy reference to Skaliski last weekend, and it ends up in a question, or Tommy Boy ends up in a question this week.
You put it out in the ether, and Skaliski will grab it and make it a question. I guess it's kind of... Take me through round one and your thoughts, Frank. What did you think of round one?
Oh, man, round one. Bibbiani being the Bibbiani that we all expect him to be, and he went 8 for 8. And Kristian missed a couple that he wants back, and it was still 5 out of 8. It's a nice round. It's a nice round. But I really thought, Commission is in trouble here with Bibbiani going 8 for 8. It looks like he's on his game. I was surprised how close Bibbiani got to that year of Caddyshack. What was it, 1971?
He was off by 1 year.
Yeah, I was like, wow.
He guessed 81 and it was 80. Wow.
Yeah. I just don't know what else to say about Bibbiani. I mean, the guy is so knowledgeable, and he answered them practically with ease. Very reminiscent of his first match. Like, this is nothing. Just, what else you got? And that's how that first round felt for me. How it just gave me flashback to his first match. And Kristian, he's a very average first round player, even with this 8-question format. He was 5 of 8, and his lifetime average in the first round is 56%. So in this match, it's 62.5%. If you're getting that specific, which I normally do. So it was slightly above his average, and it kept him close enough to make this a match going forward.
I'll tell you something real quick that I get impressed during the Schmoedown when there's a question that nobody should know and the person gets it right, and the people that are like either the commentators or the other competitors are just like, oh my God, I can't believe that. In the commando question, which should be, of course, right in Kristian's wheelhouse as it was, and when Bibbiani said the answer, Kristian was like, damn, he knew it. But wow, man, did you see the look on everybody's face when he got that right? Like, it was just it was a different layer. Brian, what did you think of round one?
Look, can you ask for anything better than a perfect round? I mean, Kristian obviously did not put up 8 points himself, but he did enough to stick around. It was a 3-point differential, and that's all you can ask for when it comes to round one against a powerhouse round one player like the Beast. He just played well enough to stick around and keep it within 3. So amazing stuff. I mean, this was just everything we expected it to be overall and in this round.
And real quick about Bibbiani's first round, he's only missed 3 first-round questions. Just throwing that out there.
That's unbelievable.
That's unbelievable. That really is. Let's jump into round 2, which may have been even better for both competitors, as Bibbiani spun initially Sly and Arnie and said no thanks, went with comedy, got them all. 4-4 for 8 points. Kristian, not to be outdone, rolls the infamous scores and soundtracks, the bane of the existence of the Beast, and he also goes 4 for 4 for 8 points. Brian, round 2 thoughts.
Well, per our interview with him on Tuesday, that's not entirely true, but it is something that the rest of the league and fans have gotten carried away with. But I propose a new rule. Whomever gets scores and soundtracks, they have to sing or vocalize the melody of the answer, like Kristian was doing. I believe I can fly, etc., etc. That is at least until we get the actual clips of the songs played. Now, I want to talk about the Beast strategy. Kristian knew Sly and Arnie very well. He chose to spin away from Kristian. This is typically something that people might be second guessing, but it worked out perfectly in this case. Kristian was not able to steal. I'm curious how this strategy would play out for most people, but the Beast is not another player. He's not like any other player. He's as good as anyone, if not the best, if things go his way. But very interested to see how this strategy plays out in general. So I'll certainly keep tabs on that. But 8-point round for both players, 13-16. Kristian down by 3 going into round 3.
Yeah, Brian kind of brings up a good point here about going away from Sly and Arnie, because if he takes Sly and Arnie, he takes that away from Kristian. But also Kristian has other strengths that obviously Scores and Soundtrack was on the wheel, a strength of his that we saw him perform very well in. So, yeah, it's an interesting – it's really kind of pick your poison. If Bibbiani doesn't feel that comfortable in Sly and Arnie, yeah, I mean, I think you're more or less playing – to your own strengths when you do that, rather being concerned with your opponent. So I understand that aspect, but it's something I think players will more than likely wrestle with or try and figure out what they want to do in those moments, depending on categories on the wheel.
Like, do you think people should spin away from other people's strengths, or should they just go for whatever their strength is, even if it happens to be a strength of their opponent?
If you have the similar strengths as your opponent, it's very, very tricky. I think it all depends on your confidence level. But my general thought has always been play your game. Don't worry about the other person.
I agree.
Play your game and just control more or less what you can control, and go from there. Don't worry about the other person. But
that's why Beast is such a special player, though, because he's strong enough to where he can spin away from a strong category of his, because he's so strong in the other categories too.
Right, and we're talking in the Beast case, like maybe he's 70% Sly and Arnie, but in comedy he's 71%. It's the differences between certain categories are probably very small for him. I mean, obviously we need some more matches with him to kind of figure out exactly where he lies in terms of other categories. But I think, the variation between going from one category to the other is probably very small. So it's just whatever. Hey, maybe I feel more comfortable at this point with another spin, because there's other categories that I think I would really enjoy answering.
I see what you're saying, but after Bibbiani got the commando question right, when he spun Sly and Arnie, I think even for a second he was thinking about it. He's like, maybe I should stick with Sly and Arnie and just kind of take it off the board for Kristian. But after he got that commando question right, I wouldn't be surprised if he ran the table on that too.
And I kind of thought the same thing because of that commando question. I thought, he might actually take this despite it being a strength for Harloff. And so I was kind of on a similar wavelengths, if you will.
That was an unusually hard question. I love commando. I've seen it twice in the last 6 months, and I couldn't have given you that answer. So I think that's a question that I wouldn't judge decision-making on.
A complete side note here. The I Believe I Can Fly answer was especially interesting to me because in 8th grade, I had to perform I Believe I Can Fly for our spring choir solo. So anyway, that video is available at my grandma's house if you want to go try to find that. So I know the song quite well.
Awesome stat about the second round concerning Harloff.
Please.
This is his 6th in a row perfect second round.
Wow. Okay. Wow. I would almost ask you if that's most all time, but I'm not gonna because I don't think you have that ready. But
in a row,
for sure.
I think that's pretty safe to say. I'll have to go back, but again, it all depends on other players, how many matches they've had. I have to go back at Riley and Makuga, but 6 in a row, including this match for the Darth one.
So Kristian basically always keeping himself in the game for sure.
Yeah, he gets he does what he needs to do in the second round, and he does it perfect.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Let's move on.
Booker T's in my veins now, man.
Sucker. All right. Let's move on to round 3, where it was Kristian who was behind and had to play a little catch up with the Beast. He got the 2, he got his 3, and he got his 5. Bibbiani got the 2, but missed the 3 and the 5. And despite 2 perfect rounds, the Beast was defeated by the commissioner 23-18. A tough loss. Second loss this season for the Beast. Brian, what did you think?
Well, first thing, another tip to competitors. Watch Last Action Hero. That is another film that Skaliski is kind of got a groove for right now. So that, Tommy Boy, Green Lantern, we're noticing some trends here. And look, we need to be an asset to the competitors that we watch. We want them to be able to improve their games by listening to this show. So I hope it helps. But, man, there are no losers in this match. As the Beast played as well as you can play in a losing effort, Kristian simply got more favorable final round questions, as the Oneaters home state and the in-country questions proved. Those were awfully difficult questions. And at least Beast doesn't have to eat himself alive for missing his perfect bonus question, his perfect round bonus question, as he still would have lost as it turned out. But congrats to Kristian, as the Nothing to Lose tour continues to be quite successful for him. So maybe he should go on Nothing to Lose tours more often. That's all I'm saying. I cannot wait for Sneider Harloff, one of my most anticipated matches ever.
Yeah, I think we found out that a loose Harloff is the best Harloff. I mean, he's just playing it loose. Frank, what did you think overall?
Yeah, it's really stunning to see Bibbiani falter in the third round again. I mean, we saw this with JTE and this match with Harloff. And Harloff got unbelievably favorable categories in that third round. It's amazing. And you heard Kristian's explanation for why he went to the numbers he did. It's because Bibbiani took some of the ones that he wanted, and Bibbiani took 13 because that was Kristian's score at the time. So Harloff took 16, and it was Star Wars. I don't know what the math on that, what the odds are on that. It's just crazy to me how all that stuff lined up for Harloff to have this perfect third round. And when you look at Kristian's third round performance, this is only the third time he's ever gotten to the third round. The last time he was in the third round was that infamous all-time match against Roca, where he did go 3 of 3. The first time he was in the third round was his first match against Ignore when he was 1 of 3, and we all know how that one turned out. So to see him back in the third round, he went 3 of 3. So he's back-to-back perfect third rounds. Certainly, I don't know if that's a trend that could begin to develop, but this match, the way it ended with Bibbiani, Bibbiani's a great competitor in this league. But I don't know if we're starting to see shades of pressure mounting on the Beast, much like it happened to Riley. Riley was solid throughout those first couple of rounds. And then you get to the third round and he would falter and then he'd lose the match. I don't know if that's what's happening to the Beast. It's only the second loss he's had in this fashion, and it's all his losses. But I'm really curious to see how this plays out. And look, as great as the Beast played, my stock in him has gone down just a tad, because you can't deny the man is an encyclopedia of movie knowledge. But when he gets to these pressure-filled moments, for the second time in a row, and I understand the difficulty of the question, and that's part of it as well. He got some tough questions, but it's interesting the route that the Beast is now taking compared to the one that we laid out for him when he beat Andreyko the first time around.
Something I want to clear up real quick. I've seen some discussion about it online, so I just want to clear this up real quick. Whenever Kristian or Marc competes in the Schmoedown, and I've heard this straight from Skaliski himself many times, that their questions are kept in a separate file that neither one of them have access to nor can see. So I saw some posts that had some conspiracy theories about Kristian, and Bibbiani had even made a couple jabs about, well, he can see all the questions. That's not exactly true. He does keep a separate folder.
The Beast brought up something in our interview, which was a fantastic interview, if I don't say so myself. He brought up something that I never really thought about before, and there has to be a big benefit on Kristian's game for the fact that he gets to see these questions and read their answers all the time. That has to improve your game without having to go buy trivia books and study like Miss Movies.
I guess so, but how many repeat questions have we seen so far? Like 2, 3? So, I guess it's not really... it's great to have that all-around knowledge of the answers and whatnot, but I don't know. I don't know how much it helps.
There are certain movies, as we've been pointing out, that Skaliski likes to go back to, and I don't know. There has to be a little bit of an advantage that comes from just being so involved in the questions and answers each and every week. Maybe it's not a huge advantage, but there has to be a slight little improvement to his game by just being exposed to so much information every week.
Well, let me say this real quick. If you just watch these matches, even if you're not, you're going to learn stuff like that Bill Paxton question, that the Edge of Tomorrow question. Like, okay, look at it. Honestly, I haven't seen the movie, but I knew it was Bill Paxton.
What?
Yes, what? I know. I said
Shame
it.
on you.
I said it. I haven't seen it yet. Okay,
go to your room.
I am in my room.
Oh,
anyway.
Never mind.
Yeah. But there's stuff about movies I haven't seen that I know answers to. I'm on the page that there's got to be questions that Kristian has seen of movies he doesn't know that he now knows. And I think maybe there's a tad advantage there. I don't think it's anything that's going to win him a match or be a predetermined factor of him winning a match. I don't think that's the case. I just think he gets the benefit of calling these matches and having to answer questions week in and week out, whether just in his head, let's say, without seeing an answer. So I know the Beast also trains weekly as well. So I think it kind of balances out in this situation compared to somebody perhaps like the Real Rejects where they're not there all the time answering questions like that. So, or don't watch the matches all the time. So I think maybe there's a slight advantage in that case.
Frank, if you're agreeing with me, then I agree with you too.
I was going to say, so you two are basically ganging up on me now. Okay,
Yes.
Fantastic. Great. One thing, I just got done defending Kristian, and now I'm going to have to turn around and call some baloney on Kristian when he said in the post-match interview that he kind of didn't want to be in the forefront of Collider Collision in this match, that he wishes he could just be the commentator. I don't believe that for a second. Kristian is such a competitive guy. Kristian once corrected the verbiage on a Facebook post that I made on my personal page. So I know that the guy is competitive. So, I mean, come on. I don't believe that for 1 second that he's not looking forward to possibly getting a shot at the Schmoedown Championship. Am I wrong here, guys? It's the commissioner kind of pulling our leg here.
I think he just meant he's got so much other work to do for Collision that
I believe that.
having to play on top
Of
of
course.
it is just an added inconvenience. Plus, he has to get other people lined up to call the match that he's playing in. They have to be extra careful with questions. So I'm sure it presents a bunch of hassles behind the scenes. But yeah, once he gets up there and gets in between the squared circle, if you will, I'm sure he wants it as much as anyone.
Squared circle. Well said. What do you think about it, Frank?
When he said that, I thought it kind of proved my thinking that he set this match up to lose so that he would be out of the way and he can just focus entirely on producing and managing, everything going on with the Schmoedown. But as you said, Aaron, he is very competitive, and once he's in there, I think he's gonna give it everything he has. And now that he is in a number one contenders match to be the number one contender, the wheels have just started turning my brain because you're going to have that match. You're going to have the triple threat match. And what could conceivably happen coming out of Collision is you could have the match of all revenge matches between Roca and Harloff set up coming out of that Collision, which would be absolutely dynamite. I would just lose myself if that was the case and it ended up being set up like that coming out of Collision. I'm getting too excited about it.
So you're picking Harloff over Sneider right now. This is not your official pick, but you would pick Harloff over Sneider right now.
I'll make that my official pick as well. I think Harloff will beat Sneider.
Whoa.
And because I've said it before, this isn't the plan. This wasn't the plan. And what happens in the Schmoedown? Nothing goes according to plan. And I think, again, Harloff would probably rather see Sneider fight for the belt than himself. But Kristian's going to welcome it if that's the case for him. And I just think this isn't what he initially wanted. He said this before. It's going to happen now. I firmly believe that. And look, at Sneider, when he's off, he's way off. Kristian has hardly had an off game. And I don't expect that to be any different going in against Sneider.
Well, to be fair, you've been oddly against Jeff Sneider in just about every match. So, Aaron, if you had to pick right now, unofficially, who's your pick, Harloff versus Sneider?
Despite Frank and Jeff being friendly and going after the match for some drinks or something, I wasn't sure what was said.
Couple of chuckleheads.
Exactly. Right now, I would pick Sneider.
Likewise.
I think Sneider is on the hot streak, and I like him. But something I want to talk about real quick is, but something else, any way you slice, if Kristian were to win, any way you slice it, whether it be Kristian versus Riley, interesting match of great friends. You've got Kristian versus Merle, two big parts of two big channels going at it. And of course, Kristian versus Roca, again, would be a fantastic rematch. So any way you slice it for Kristian, it's going to be an interesting match. Same thing with Sneider, though. Him against Roca would be some great back and forth. Him against Merle would be pretty interesting. That's a lot of knowledge there. And then him and Riley, former Meet the Movie Press partners. I think that would be a lot of fun. So I think any way you slice it, you're going to get a great championship match coming out of Collision. So kudos to that. I think that's a great setup.
Yeah, I'm not picking against Jeff Sneider, as I've said before. I think the Nothing to Lose tour of Kristian's ends when it comes to that match. But it's going to be a great one. It's definitely going to be a great one. Jeff Sneider, though, he's better than Frank Janisch is giving him credit for. I just want to make that explicitly known.
I will say, I don't agree.
Not sure how much Jeff Sneider is paying Brian or if he's letting him write a freelance article for the tracking board. But anyway, let's talk about in the post-match interview. Also, in the post-match interview, when Kristian had won, Jeff had confronted him, and I thought we were going to get some of that great, and I thought we were going to get a great heel promo where Sneider was just going to rip Kristian apart, and it wasn't that way. It was a very respectful promo, and I did not see that coming from somebody in the Lion's Den. It was almost like a détente, if you will, or a deuce. And I actually kind of liked it. I didn't think I would. I kind of, for a second there, I was like, man, I kind of wish Finstock would step in here. But I kind of like what Sneider said to Kristian. Brian, your thoughts?
I think I'm confusing this promo with the promo that Sneider interrupted earlier in the day in the other match, because he came in and he said, Kristian slayed the beast, I whacked the Godfather. And that line was just, my God, that is good. That is something that I would write, quite frankly. So Jeff Sneider, the guy is doing everything right these days. He's going to beat Kristian Harloff.
Look, Sneider, I think, realizes that he is now in the territory of, you better not write checks your body can't cash, or your mouth can't cash.
Listen to this guy.
I'm serious, because look, if he was going up against Bibbiani or Harloff, I think you would have got the same kind of interruption from him. Maybe a little more aggressive towards Bibbiani because he's not the commissioner, but he's going up against the commissioner. And, Kristian kind of joked about it, that, he was a little nicer in that interruption because, Kristian runs the league, so he's got to get matches somehow. But I think, Sneider knows from now on he is going to be facing people that are no jokes, that could absolutely tear apart just about anybody in the league below him. So I like the respect aspect that Sneider is giving to his competitor, his opponents, because it's a complete departure from what we see the Lions Den do in their interviews. And he was up there alone without the Lions Den, so maybe that has something to do with it. He didn't feel as protected, or he didn't feel like he could have that bravado of the Lions Den. He's up there alone, going after Kristian in a respectful way, if you will. So
don't bite the hand that feeds.
Right. So it's a lot of that, and it makes for an interesting Sneider in my eyes.
Speaking of not biting the hand that feeds, somebody must have got a raise for all this praise that's being thrown around the commissioner, but I'm not going there. I don't want to talk about any conspiracy theories. But let's talk a little bit about the post-match interview with one William Bibbiani. He was obviously upset that he'd lost. He's a big fan of this league, and he said in our interview that he would want to compete every week if they would have him. But into the interview comes John Roca, not to interrupt, just to kind of add moral support. Matt Nose was there, or as Tom Dagnino calls him, the pizza guy. I think that's really funny. And, things started to heat up again between the Outlaw and the Beast. Frank, what do you think of this, man? Is something happening here?
Something is going on. There is miscommunication going on, because I thought Roca approached it pretty even keel and not in a way of like, hey, you suck. He was just like, hey, we just got to get better. And the Beast is like, I already am good. What are you talking about? And Roca's like, well, you keep losing. So it's very, very interesting what's going on there. I have no idea how this is going to play out, but it's going to play out in one way or the other. Whether they squash this or they go their separate ways, that's the only way it can happen. And I tend to think it's going to end kind of bad for the Four Horsemen.
Well, the seeds are being planted, that's for sure. Brian, what do you think of this?
Tuesday on this very show, the Beast fired some shots at Mr. John Roca. And then on Wednesday's Schmoes Know live show, it appeared that they had settled their differences for the time being. But then 2 days later, today, this happened. So something's definitely brewing. This is going to come to a head at some point. The question is not if it comes to a head, when it comes to a head. Does it come to a head at Collision? Before that? I don't know, but the Beast, like he said, he's tired of condescending pep talks. The Beast will be going after the Outlaw soon enough. I've been waiting for this since the moment the Beast debuted in this league. I can't wait. Cannot wait.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for this. Just stay tuned after the break. We'll be right back. Previews. Welcome back, Movie Trivia Schmoedown fans. We are talking team preview action, and we have a guest with us today. You may remember him from a couple weeks ago when our feed screwed up and everything got all jumbled, but we've got him back. Tim Sim, Schmoevillain extraordinaire, is here with us. Tim, welcome back.
Hey guys, good to be back in the Schmoedown Rundown, live from Houston, Texas, and hopefully this time this works out and,
What we're talking now this week is the upcoming team preview match for next week. It'll be Team Rotten Tomatoes versus Team IGN. Frank Janisch, I'm going to start this one with you since you are quite the fan of both of these teams. Who you got?
This is tough because Rotten Tomatoes, even though they beat What the Flick, it wasn't a great performance. IGN, in their debut, they had a really strong performance. They scored 72%. Rotten Tomatoes lifetime is averaging 64%, close to 65%. And I know a lot of people are high on IGN based on that one performance, but I don't want to fall into the trap of being a prisoner of the moment. And I'm going to take the vets, Rotten Tomatoes. I think Gray has a big bounce back match with this to go along with Matt Ashety's knowledge, and I think they're going to pull out the win over IGN.
All right, fair enough. Brian, what do you think, man? How do you see them?
Well, besides Harloff and Sneider, this has been one of my most anticipated matches in quite some time. Rotten Tomatoes has been a favorite of mine since Gray was involved with the AMC Closet in Burbank. However, IGN had that remarkable debut as Jim Vejvoda's Vendetta proved to be awfully mighty. But Rotten Tomatoes has served up enough fresh performances to where I'm going to pick them over IGN. I think IGN is going to have one of those second match slumps, all of the Beast.
Fresh. I see what you did there. Very nice.
All right.
Tim, tell us, Rotten Tomatoes, IGN, where are you leaning?
Yeah, well, at least looking at this matchup, this is going to be a very good team matchup between two rising teams. IGN coming off with probably so far the only knockout of this season, and Rotten Tomatoes, well, even though not a good performance against What the Flick, they're still one of the solid teams, particularly with that very good matchup against Team Top 10. So, honestly, I agree with Frank. I think even though IGN is might be one of the hottest teams, they only played one match, and overall, I think experience that Rotten Tomatoes have will really propel them to win over IGN.
Okay, well, I guess I'll be in the minority here because I'm taking Team IGN. I like the fire of Eric Goldman, and I like Jim Vejvoda a lot. I think this team is going to do big things. They absolutely obliterated Team Nerdist, and I don't see it stopping here. Though Rotten Tomatoes, full disclosure, is one of my favorite teams to watch. Of course, the incredible match with Team Top 10 that has been mentioned. They've been a great team, and I could see either one of these getting the title shot in the future. But for right now, I'm going to stick with the hot hand. I'm taking Team IGN. I'll be the only one. That's fine. Let's move into singles preview number 1 this week. Another doubleheader. We have Hal Rudnick versus Scott Mance. It may be father versus son. I don't know. We'll need a DNA test to prove it. Who knows? Good to see both of these guys back in singles. Brian, I'm going to start with you on this one. Who you got?
Yeah, this is definitely the chip off the old block match, and while I enjoyed watching Hal, or while I do enjoy watching Hal, Mance has this one locked up since he's got more reps under his belt. Mance, as long as he doesn't rush or waste his energy before the match, he can beat just about anyone.
So, Frank, do you think that we're going to need to turn the volume down for this match, first of all, and then who do you got?
Yeah, I think you certainly will have to turn down your volume at points. I think it's going to be a very entertaining match going along with the banter, not so much on the game itself. I think it's going to be a fairly tame match in terms of questions and answers. But I want to take Mance. Through 3 matches he's had in the Schmoedown as a singles competitor, he's averaging 56%. Rudnick in his lone match, he was 7 of 14. So, not too great from either of them. But I think Mance has had a pretty impressive run in the team division, and that's where I'm basing my prediction on. Because and Brian's right, he has had more reps, and that means a lot, especially in this new format. So I'm going to go with Mance.
All right. Tim, you got both of these guys here. One's really loud, the other one's even louder. Who you got in this one?
Well, I don't know which either one could make the biggest volume, but the one who will make the most volume are the fans, because particularly fans who were part of the Movie Trivia Schmoedown, even for like the past couple of years, everyone's going to be really cheering loud because this will be the return of perhaps one of the great phenoms of the Movie Trivia Schmoedown and the massive movie release dates, Scott Mance. So yeah, Scott Mance all the way, and Scott Mance to hopefully make his Roca versus Mance 3.
Do the Schmoedown fans ever lose? We as fans, I don't think we've ever lost. I think we're undefeated. And I'm also going to take Scott Mance, Mance-a-mania, big Scott Mance fan. I'm a mark for Scott Mance, if you will. Profiler for life, if you know what that means. We can be in a fraternity. All right, let's move into singles preview number 2 this week. It will be Stacey Howard making her singles debut versus Jonathan the Vulture Voitko also making his debut. Frank, who you got?
I'm going to go Stacey Howard over Voitko. I just think...
That's interesting.
Yeah, I just think the confidence is not there for Voitko. I think he's really in his own head at this point. And Stacey Howard, with Brianne Chandler being her teammate, they had pretty much an identical showing at the free-for-all. And I think, I would hope, in some shape or form that, the podcast that they do, 6 Degrees of Film, all of that stuff, that comes to light and helps her out. So I want to pick Stacey Howard over Jonathan Voitko, even though Voitko's on my fantasy team, so that's a little rough.
It's very interesting. And Stacey Howard is on mine. Brian, who do you have in this showdown here of first-timers?
Vulture has been on tilt for a while, and given that the loser breaks up is coming up between Tough Beats and 6 Degrees, I have to believe that Vulture's struggles will continue against Stacey Howard in this match. So he's had too many traumatic moments at this point, and PTSD, post-traumatic Schmoedown disorder, it's a real thing according to WebMD. So I'm picking Stacey Howard, as Michael Keaton will soon be the only Vulture in town.
Brian, I think we're 3 for 3 on our predictions.
Yeah,
This is weird.
It's getting really weird.
Frank, at this point, it's wise for you to follow my lead when it comes to predictions.
I think I predicted before you, and just
say you went first 2 out of 3 times. But anyway, let's jump to Tim. Tim, you got Stacey Howard here. You got Jonathan Voitko, 2 first-timers, 2 people that most recently we saw Stacey in the free-for-all, and Voitko as well. Didn't have the best of performances. So who are you leaning towards in this match?
Well, to be honest, I think with how good Stacey Howard did in the free-for-all, I mean, it has to be Stacey Howard hands down, because, I mean, Jonathan Voitko, honestly, the 2 specters haunting his head, Howard Shore and Maximus himself, with those 2 haunting his dreams, I don't think Voitko's going to be able to be that confident and pull out all the right answers. Stacey Howard, I wouldn't definitely underestimate her, because she's part of a really good team in 6 Degrees, and obviously, I think 6 Degrees will definitely stay as a team, and Tough Beats split up for good, unfortunately. So yeah, Stacey Howard over Voitko.
I just want to say that Jonathan Voitko, I know he's listening to this because he's been a long-time supporter of our show, one of the very first competitors to jump on board and give us a lot of credit. So I appreciate him for that. And Jonathan, I know, and I appreciate you listening. And I'm on your side. I'm taking Jonathan Voitko. I'm taking the Vulture. I think this is where he gets back on track. I realize that Stacey is riding high, being on a great team, and Tough Beats has had their downside. But I think this is the time where Voitko starts to live up to that promise that the commissioner made a long time ago, saying how great he would be in singles. I think this may be the time to show that. So I'm going to lean towards the Vulture. All right, guys, that's it for the predictions, but we're going to move on to a part of the show that we've done before, but now we're going to bring it back. It's your fan questions. Now, I posed Kristian put a post up on the Movie Trivia Schmoedown Facebook page about some questions that you guys may have for us and that we would like to answer, some fun ones. And, of course, one person will be chosen to win either the Alien Blu-ray or the Prometheus. Your choice. The choice is yours, and it also comes with a free ticket to see the new Alien Covenant in theaters right now. I don't know why they plugged them. They're not plugging us. All right, the first question comes from Malene Lils Zellman, I apologize if that is mispronunciated. I'm from West Virginia. If there were to be a new category on the wheel, what should it be? Brian, I'll start with you on this one.
Well, I was going to say Christopher Nolan until this week, but
Fantastic category.
Exactly, but now I'm going to say a Keanu category.
Oh, okay. Just straight up Keanu Reeves or just all
Just Keanu. I'm not Keanu the movie. There's only one Keanu. This is a Madonna situation. There's only one Keanu, and he deserves his own category.
But he did voice the cat in the movie. I just want to...
Oh, good point. So it is applicable. It's just everyone knows it's tied to Keanu Reeves.
Got it. Okay. Tim, what is the new category you think should be on the wheel?
Well, I think for me, there's like two categories which I would like to see added on. I mean, one of them, well, probably what I've seen on the Facebook page is like guilty pleasures movies. I mean, it might be too broad, but it might be really interesting to see if some of the movies that most people hate that other people might like, who knows if they can be able to pull something out. That'd be really good and challenging category. But another good category, which I think I'm not very sure if everyone would like to do, but yeah, I definitely have an international or foreign films category because there are definitely some very good foreign films that have entered the American movie mind and a lot of people would remember and enjoy, such as obviously Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. You're talking about Japanese animated movies like Spirited Away, or even the recent Your Name. I mean, that would be a really good category to really test out the competitors.
Good point, Frank. What do you think, man?
Well, I was thinking about something a little different than your typical director category, or like a Christopher Nolan or an actor category. I was thinking maybe you could do a category titled car chases, that would consist of basically movies that have car chases in them. Like, well, Ronin comes to mind, obviously, and then you got
the Raid 2. Sure,
and then you got maybe you can even throw in Speed in their questions surrounding the car chase. Like Bullets in there, what kind of car, Gone in 60 Seconds, stuff like that. So it'd be I think it would be a difficult category because you ask a lot of questions about types, makes and models of cars, who's driving, this and that, if they hit something, something notable, even like the Bourne movies, they have a bunch of car chases. So,
well, I know you said that you don't want to go with a director category. I don't know if you feel like that's kind of easy, because that's exactly what I'm going for. The fact that the Christopher Nolan category was in this week, I'm with Brian on that. I was over the moon that was in there. And I think you should add a classic filmmaker further back than Christopher Nolan, outside of Scorsese and Spielberg. Why not John Carpenter films? How many great films has John Carpenter made? Even though Kristian has not seen The Thing, I'll let that pass. But all of the great films that he's made, Escape from New York, Escape from L.A., They Live, Halloween, so on, so forth. John Carpenter films needs to be in there, as everybody should celebrate the man's filmography. Just my opinion. Also, real quick, foreign films, I definitely agree with you, Tim. I think that should be in there in some capacity. You know what is a great foreign film, Frank? The Man from Nowhere.
It is pretty good.
Rudy Hernandez asked, we all want to see The Rock versus Kevin Hart, but what two celebrities, actors, directors, producers, etc., I didn't see any seducers in there, but anyway, do you think would have the closest and most back and forth match? Frank?
My mind, for whatever reason, and well, I think I know why, it automatically goes to Star Wars, and I would like to see Pablo Hidalgo and Dave Filoni duke it out in a Star Wars match. That's just me. I think because they both work with the canon material so closely together, I think their knowledge of Star Wars being pitted against each other would make this Star Wars nerd's dream come true.
It would get awfully sweaty in there. Brian, what do you think?
Scorsese versus Tarantino, that would be epic. They're widely regarded as Hollywood historians, cinephiles, of course. I'd also love to see Christopher Nolan battle Denis Villeneuve, since they're both like-minded.
Stop. Don't take my answer.
They're both like-minded in their approach to filmmaking, and they're the two best working today. Lastly, I'd love to see Vince Gilligan battle Damon Lindelof. They're both film buffs, despite being two of TV's most successful showrunners.
I like all of those matches. Tim, who you got, man?
Yeah, I mean, I think for one particularly good matchup, when you're doing like an inner geekdom matchup, I would definitely put up with two very good geeks, such as Chris Hardwick and someone named Will Wheaton of Star Trek fame.
That's fantastic. I like that a lot.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, like Harloff versus Wheaton. Harloff versus Wheaton. You could definitely see it go all the way in the Inner Geekdom match.
I just went straight up directors, and Brian, you had one of the directors that I had in my match. I have very simply friends, co-workers, Quentin Tarantino versus Robert Rodriguez. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah,
definitely. And, definitely a war between friends. All right, let's move on to our last question here. And don't worry, guys, if I didn't get to your question. I'm actually banking 5 or 6, depending on time. Chris Clark asks, hey, guys, in terms of character, presence, and banter, who would you rank in order as your top 5? I'll take this one first. I will start 5 to 1. At number 5, I have Emma Fyffe. I like what she does on the mic. I think she's incredibly entertaining. At number 4, I have Jeff Sneider. I like everything that Jeff does. I think he's getting better on the mic. He's fun to watch. At number 3, I have the team of the Wolves of Steel. I like their entrances. I like their camaraderie as a team. It's a shame they didn't win the titles, but anyway, that could be in for another time. At number 2, this is going to hurt Frank. At number 2, I have John Roca. I have the Outlaw. One of the best talkers in the league, and by far probably the runaway most popular in the league at the moment. But of course, number 1, I have my man, the best in the business, the best on the stick, the best character that the Schmoedown and Schmoes have ever created. That would be Tom Dagnino, a.k.a. Finstock. The guy can do no wrong. I'm a huge Finstock fan. Brian, what about you?
I'm not going to rank them, so this is just in no particular order. And to be fair, my 5 favorites, Patriots, Robert Meyer Burnett, The Beast, Finstock, and Ken Knapsack.
I see what you did there. All right, Frank, who do you have? Who's your top 5?
All right, my top 5. So number 5 is going to be Jeff Sneider. Really enjoy what he does. And then at number 4, I'm going to go Elliot Dewberry.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I just kind of, I mean, he came up with Billy Bibbs. That's pretty amazing to me. I know it's so simple, but I loved it. Number 3, I'm going to go Robert Meyer Burnett.
All right.
Number 2 will shock you, Aaron. I will say John Roca.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, and number 1, it's got to be Finstock.
Oh, wow. Okay, you agree with me. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I know.
All right,
I
Tim.
wrestled with it real hard.
Son of a gun. Tim, what do you think, man? Who's your top 5?
Yeah, for me, going from 5 to 1, number 5, I have Tom Dagnino. I mean, he's definitely becoming a growing personality, but...
Number 5? Hot damn, Tim. Come on.
What? I mean...
Come on.
I just find him kind of a bit too weird-ish. I mean, but he's definitely a good personality for sure.
Right.
And number 4, I have Robert Meyer Burnett, especially with his, growing villainous persona, especially with what happened in the Inner Geekdom post-match interview. I mean, I can definitely see him being seeing his presence and his character really grow as the icon of pestilence of the Four Horsemen. Yeah, number 3, I would put Jeff Sneider. I mean, he's definitely not only just, insane competitor in the singles and teams, but also becoming really confident and kind of cocky character, which will definitely, some people will find as entertaining, even though most would hate him, but some would really enjoy him for his, villainous overconfidence. Number 2, which I'm not very sure why you didn't have him in your list, but number 2 for me, I would definitely have the wild man Josh McCouga, particularly with with what he is doing now in the fantasy updates. I mean, it's really taken a whole new character on its own. And number 1, I have to put obviously the outlaw John Roca, because at this point he's becoming the Conor McGregor, in my opinion, the Conor McGregor of the Movie Trivia Schmoedown, and really taking over this competition, whether you like it or not.
And none of us named Christian or Ellis, which is insane. So anyone who is not listed in our top 5s, do not take it personally. This is a very difficult thing to do because, again, they would not be in this league if they weren't all great in their own unique ways.
And more importantly, please do not fire us. Thank you guys for all those questions. And like I said, I'm going to bank them, so keep them coming in, and we'll do some giveaways here and there. That's going to do it for this episode, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's a little bit longer than usual, but hey, that happens when you have a lot to talk about. But before we get out of here, I want to know where everybody can be found. So our guest, our good friend, Tim Sim, thanks for coming back. Where can you be found?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just glad to be back after what happened, and hopefully, I mean, if you have any time of need me, I'll be available. But yeah, I mean, you can definitely find me on Twitter at Tim L Sim, and also at Critwell HP Stats with at CRHP Stats altogether. And because I'm definitely one of the people running behind the scenes of a familiar Dungeons and Dragons web show on Twitch called Critical Role, where according to the tagline, it is nerdy ass voice actors getting together and play Dungeons and Dragons.
All right, Frank Janisch, the stat man, Mr. Schmoedown.com. Where can you be found?
It gets me every time. You can find me on Twitter at FrankieJ29. Also, my pinned tweet on my page will link you to my reaction video I did recently. So if you like pop-up stats in your Schmoedown videos, go check that out. And the weekly recap on Schmoedown.com comes out, I think, Sundays. So yeah, look out for that.
Fantastic. Brian David's my co-captain of the Christopher Nolan fan club. Where can you be found?
You guys can follow me on Twitter at BDF331. Check out my TV film podcast at filmschlubspodcast.com or wherever podcasts are found. I have an interview going up with Better Call Saul's Michael Mando as we just talked episode 306 of Better Call Saul. Special thanks to Clint LaJeunesse at Floyd Pinkster and Shane Bowman of HeisenbergChronicles.com for all their help with artwork every week. And I just want to send out an apology to our boss, Mr. Kristian Harloff, as I know better, and that's all I'm going to say.
Also, you can find me on Twitter at ATTitanium, and I'm going to actually change it up a little bit. You can actually find me, if you want, on PlayStation Network at Titan7817. That's right. Let's play some Rainbow Six Siege, and let's blow some shit up. All right, guys, that's it for the Schmoedown Rundown. Of course, follow the show at SD Rundown if you will, and we will see you next Saturday. It is the Schmoedown Rundown. We are out of here. See ya.